Okay, anything else? The one thing I don't like about this Skype video recording thing is I don't know how to control the audio levels. So that's always a pain.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, at least we're sounding better, just quality-wise.
Yeah.
But getting the audio levels to match, that's always a challenge for me when I've been cutting these.
Yeah, you almost have to do it in post and just throw it through like an equalizer.
Well, yeah, you do have to do it in post, but I still haven't figured out how to do it in post.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought you were trying to do it on the fly.
Actually, if you can, I mean, ideally, you set your audio levels before you record, and then your final is just leveled.
Yeah.
But since I can't do that on the live, then I haven't figured out how to do it on the backside, and GarageBand doesn't have a levelator thing. I did find an app online called Levelator. Haven't tried it yet, but I'll try that on this one. Okay.
I have Final Cut Studio, so that has sound,
Nice.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And we usually go about 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Beautiful.
It's conversational, not an interview. I want to reframe it from interview to conversation.
Okay. Depends
on how much people want to talk. Okay, DJ Chuang here, and I'm chatting with my good friend, Marc Payan. We're both here in Orange County, California, but we're doing this by a Skype video chat. And we're going to talk about social media and the church for our Social Media Church podcast. And a couple ways that I've connected with Marc is, ideally, we met first at a unconference hybrid thing called the Idea Camp.
Yeah, that was back in 2009, February of 2009.
Well, you're keeping score. Very good. And
yes.
And so we've gotten to be good friends in person, as well as staying in touch through Twitter and some Facebook. He's pretty active on Instagram now. But I wanted to introduce you to him because he has a vital role in his local church. So, Marc, tell our listeners about who you are and what your role is at Christian Tabernacle.
So I'm here in Orange County as well. Church that I go to and part of is Christian Tabernacle in Santa Ana, California. I'm serving as one of the lay pastors there, largely focusing on small groups. I am on the executive team, so there's 3 of us that are on the executive team that break up the core team for our church of about 550 members, and largely Hispanic church. We use social media heavily.
Okay, so tell us what you use.
So primarily we use Facebook, and to a lesser degree we use Twitter, and we also use heavily Vimeo and SoundCloud.
Okay, so let's drill down on each one of those. So how is it that you use Facebook as a church, and how you foster relationships and community?
So the way that we use Facebook as a church is that each of the individual, like say, core pastors, we gauge a lot of interest and maybe even some of the thoughts and kind of, I guess you would say, maybe prime the pump on some series that are coming up, or if any particular meetings are coming up. We post, there are some intentional posts that have to do concerning with the series that month or with a particular vision. And we throw it out to the Facebook community, who are not necessarily all our members, but we see some interaction there. And people sometimes they comment and they interact and they talk within the comment section, and we're able to gauge a lot of interest there. We also have a Facebook page too that's just directly Christian Tabernacle, where we have we pretty much all of our leaders have administrative access to post and comment.
Okay, so the first part you mentioned is that a group that's private to your church members?
No, actually, it's just it's open to anyone. So it's open to anyone that's connected to you as a friend, and or even subscribes to your post. And the reason we do that is because we want also others to interact. It kind of it kind of levels the playing field, because sometimes within our own congregation, we could talk a certain way, and come up with our own language. But when it's kind of thrown out to every friends that are non-believers that are in different states that are believers, and they start to interact and engage with the conversation, it gives us a good pulse.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you're actively listening to the conversations that happen between friends that are part of your church. But how do you do that? Because Facebook is such a big place. If it's not all in one group or all in one page, what kind of tools are you using to do that?
So currently, I'm using. Each of us actually use something different.
That's fine.
Yeah. So I use Hootsuite a lot, and I kind of keep the gauge with the newsfeed aspect of Hootsuite. And I also have lists that I use heavily on Facebook. So anytime I get new ads and they happen to be part of Christian Tabernacle or somehow connected, I put them in a particular list, and that's how I listen to them.
That is brilliant. So you're using the subscribe list,
correct,
to follow the various people in your church. Mm-hmm. And then I guess your personal profile you're keeping with your personal friends more so. And so by separating them in separate buckets, then you're able to track things a little better in an organized fashion.
Yeah. So and if I'm going into a meeting, sometimes not. This is just when we're using Facebook. It's not the only thing that we use to listen. However, like when I'm going into a meeting, I just kind of click on that list and I could see the conversations that are happening among those people, what they're talking about, where they're at.
Yeah,
and that kind of gives us a good gauge of where people tend to be pretty open on Facebook. It doesn't even have to be about. Mostly, it's not about us. It's just about their lives. But when you see it in that stream, like a message emerges, a sense emerges, and that's where we I literally look at the list and I say, God, what are you trying to tell me in this?
Yeah. Well, plus you're a spirit-filled church, so you get that extra insight.
Yeah.
Compared to some of us who aren't.
Yeah.
Now, talk a little bit about how you manage the multilingual aspect, because you mentioned Hispanic church, but you're a bilingual church.
Yeah, we are a bilingual church, so all of our gatherings are bilingual, and we put up our messages or even some of our trainings on SoundCloud and also on Vimeo, and we've been bilingual for about 2 years now. The first 6 months or so was a little difficult, so there is an art in being able to communicate the message without skipping a beat. And so it is pretty remarkable on how it's within the same step, within the same breath that the translation is happening. So it's not a pause, let the other person speak. It's right in step. If you would just remove one of the languages, you would not realize that the other person has been pausing all along. That's how.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, in the show notes, we'll link to one of those videos. Maybe you can suggest one that's one of the better examples of how that works, that really brings it out, because sometimes, a recording or sometimes a speaker might not quite hit it as well.
Exactly.
So, recommend one for us to see, because I think that your church is on the leading edge of developing some things, not just in social media, but multilingual is very much part of our 21st century global village. Yeah. And I know for me as an ethnic Chinese in the ethnic Asian church, they're trying to figure out how to handle multiple languages. And I was at a multi-ethnic church gathering last week, and they were trying to figure out how to handle 3 languages, Swahili and
incredible
Spanish and English, all within one congregation. And there's some kind of a value in a minority community for the being together and the relationship that isn't as pronounced in some Anglo contexts.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see new individuals that come into the church that haven't had exposure to that type of context, and I pinpoint them right away to ask them, figure out how you feeling. And I have found 2 different camps of individuals. The first camp is the individual that when I'm talking about people that have come from another church, that the first camp is an individual that's kind of not really been exposed to many different types of churches. They've just had a relocation, and they're looking for something that used to be like their home church.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a difficulty adapting to the multilingual or the bilingual aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to recreate something they had in their home church.
Mm-hmm.
The other individuals that I see that adapt much quicker are the individuals that have had multiple church experiences. So this is probably their fifth or sixth church they've been involved in, and they've been part of. And those individuals, they seem to just, this is my home, kind of grab it right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where others that have, maybe grown up in one type of church, they have a hard time, or they're slower to adapt to the process.
Yeah. Well, when you first mentioned this to me, I was amazed to hear that the bilingual live translated sermon was actually working for your church and actually helped engage people more. I mean, that's such a scary thing for you to try, and then to see that it worked. What did you discover that made it work and work better as you learned to do it better over 6 months?
Yeah. So for several years, we had two different services, one that was all Spanish and one that was all English. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was that it felt like there were two complete different churches. There was such a separation just because there was just because they were going at different times. There was not much of an interaction. Within the Spanish church, we had like more of a lively kind of just pump to it, and within the English church, it seemed that the lively pump to it was coming from the stage, and it just kind of ended at the audience, and the audience just kind of looked on. So when we mixed both, it's like they grabbed an appreciation for each other, and the Spanish became a little less pumped, but the English became more pumped, and we got kind of like a pace. And so some of the things that we found that worked well is in the choice of the translators and the choice of the songs as well. They need to go right in step, where you could actually hum the next. You can hum it if you don't know it. And, since we're a very experiential church, really about the Pentecostal experience, the words don't matter as much as what you're feeling and what you're experiencing. So that allows people to focus more on the experience than on the actual words, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's something you got to experience, and the recording will give you a taste of it, but nothing like being there live and in person. And your church is in downtown Santa Ana, right? So
correct.
People that nearby can stop by. And in the show notes, we'll give a link to your church website. I think for this previous segment, I'm going to make that a separate recording, because that's a valuable piece. It was a little bit off track from the social media piece, and I try to keep the audio piece pretty tight on that. So how does social media get incorporated into your live gatherings on your weekend worship?
So we use live stream, and we're also using the churchonline.org platform.
How's that working for you?
Yeah, so we're in the testing stages, but we have some current members that are out of the country, and we've had people log in from Vietnam, from Uganda, from different areas where we already have members that happen to be traveling out in those areas right now doing mission work, and they seem to connect really well. At times, we have difficulty with the Church Online platform, where it works on live stream, but for some reason the embedded code does not work.
Oh,
so that's about the only difficulty.
Still working out some technical issues.
Yeah.
But and then once you get it up and running, I mean, how much resource and time are you looking to commit to this?
So currently we have a media team, and there is one designated individual within this media team of about 10 people.
Wow.
That dedicates himself just to the live stream of any event that we do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a big media team for a medium-sized church.
Yeah, what it is a lot of interns. We have the key individuals. We have two key leaders, and they are cycling. Pretty much each individual has a shadow or two shadow individuals with him at all times.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's why it's such a big team. So the individuals might just be sitting there and not doing much, but they're kind of shadowing. And we one of the things from the media team is that they definitely believe in that shadowing concept, that you just have someone there all the time.
Yeah.
So it makes for a cramped space, but they're there.
That's amazing. That's great leadership development process, integrated with what you do as you do ministry. That's fantastic. That's a great lesson to learn for all of us. Any other social media channels that you're experimenting with or you've had to stop using because it just didn't work for you?
Yeah, so SoundCloud we use pretty heavily, and that is we put the messages up or any type of recording that we do, we put it up within 24 hours, usually much sooner than that, but no later than 24 hours.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of interaction there. Then it gets reposted onto Facebook.
There you go.
And so that draws traffic. So
yeah.
There's people that subscribe to the SoundCloud, but most of the traffic comes from the Facebook post. Yeah. We're also experimenting with Fellowship One. Fellowship One is a kind of data service that we use, a church management software that we use. And as new individuals are connecting to the church, they're all going into this database, and we send out an email about a new series that comes out. So we're still using traditional email to have people connect. Yeah.
SoundCloud got a real boost, featured on Twit TV with Lou Laporte recently. And so really love what they're doing to create community around audio, and glad to hear that you're there actively using it. How much does Facebook engage your community? 50%, 75%? How many of your congregation is actively on there?
So I'm going to break that up like into two parts.
Okay.
We get, I would say, about 80% of our interaction with SoundCloud, Vimeo, and our live stream events come from Facebook.
Sure.
Yeah. In terms of how many people within our congregation are on Facebook, I would say that you're looking about 60% or so of the congregation is on Facebook, and that's is
that's sizable.
Yeah, a largely Hispanic population. There's individuals that don't know how to run a computer, don't even own a computer, but they're on Facebook because they have mobile phones.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, and they don't even speak English, and they're on Facebook because they have a mobile phone.
Yeah, well, Facebook does come in Spanish, right?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Okay. I only speak English, so I don't know all the other languages that Facebook covers. And I think I've heard that Facebook is banned in China. So
yes.
as is Twitter now.
Wow.
Yeah. Not that I've ever been to China, but that's what I hear.
So if you go, you can't use Twitter. You're going to have to use something else.
Man, I'll feel so disconnected and disoriented.
You're going to have to pre-plan your posts.
There's something disingenuous about that.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the new projects you're working on. I know you're active in social media personally.
Yes.
Tell us about Payan X and your marriage expertise.
Yeah. So I'm an early adopter when it comes to a lot of social media and just a lot of things in tech in general. And so I used Twitter mainly, and more recently, Facebook, created a Facebook page. But what I did is when I started a Twitter account, I was involved in some marriage and family research, and I decided to just kind of start aggregating some of that information and sharing it on Twitter, and I created a Twitter account uniquely named iMarriage, and just started posting things, and I think I was like a year married. So what that did is that really garnered a lot of people talking about marriage and research, and I connected with individuals that allowed me to then meet live. My purpose was really to meet these individuals live. And when they met me and they thought that, this iMarriage individual must have a lot of resources because he is pointing to a lot of good research.
Yeah, amazing.
And in that, it helped me connect with individuals. I think it's like 7 or 8,000 followers currently on Twitter, but followers that really engage. So a lot of these I've met live. Also, I have my own personal account, Marc Payan, which is my name, but I have that as private.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah, just I just don't want my posts just to appear on search engines.
Okay, yeah, that's one
And
factor.
yeah, that's pretty much the main factor.
Okay.
Is
Well,
was for that.
well, when you have a private Twitter account, that also means your tweets will not be archived in the Library of Congress.
Ooh, I did not know that.
Yeah, see, I don't know if that's going to tip the scale for you, but thought I'd throw that in there.
So since I have 3 Twitter accounts that I
Uh-huh.
use actively, having one that's not archived, I think I can live with that.
Okay.
The other Twitter account that I have is Payan X, which is my last name in the X, and I started to get into a lot of the health and fitness research aspect of it, and started to duplicate what I did with the marriage, because that was so late in the game on Twitter. The follower, there's not many followers. However, there's interaction that I would see is almost just as equal. And I draw people from there to Facebook. My Facebook like page for Pionex is it's hovering somewhere around 12 or 1,300 likes.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, and so I like the new insights of Facebook because it actually tells you what the average people talking about it. So it ranges, anywhere from 400 to 700 individuals talking about it.
Yeah, and what are you hoping to do with Payan X?
So Pionex is it's created so I can earn the right to be a trusted voice in the health and fitness space.
Well, you know what? All you got to do is show your before and after photo.
Yeah, 88 pounds, right?
Yeah, you lost. Wow, I thought it was in the 70s, but you lost 88 pounds by running through the Payan X program,
Right.
and some extra things that you did on your diet and lifestyle. Amazing contrast.
Yeah, it's 88 pounds, and then in a shift in my thinking as well, because I'm very research oriented, so I want to know what the effects are, and I found out I've been convinced that weight loss or even changes in my body are not as reliant on just fitness and nutrition as they are on how I'm navigating through the other spaces in my life, the other spheres in my life, whether it's my spiritual life, whether it's my business, whether it's dreams that I want to follow, whether it's my relationship with my wife and my daughter, or my relationship with friends. As those conversations are hampered, or conversations that I'm not having, I see the effect on my body.
Amazing.
So that's how Pionex actually got. It really it came to life as I was searching for the X factor. I was saying, what is that X? What is that thing that tips the scale? What is that? What is that element that just allows people to raise the standard and go for it? That just say, what's the point where people say, I've had enough. I'm not going to live lower than the lower standard than I deserve. And I found it's when you're able to address conversations in these other spheres, that skill bleeds over, and eventually it bleeds over to your fitness and your nutrition. You will not take it anymore. But if you're taking it from your wife, and you're taking it from your work, you're taking it from your, the place of worship you go, then you're going to take it in your own body. Your body's going to reflect.
How about that?
Reflect that. And that's my core belief, at least.
Well, you're onto something, and I look forward to hearing how that will develop on Payan X. As we wrap up, a couple questions. What do you think the church is? Well, let me skip there. Okay, a question that's passed along from our previous guest, Kenny Jang. He asks about social media and relationships. What do you gain and what do you lose when you use social media on building relationships?
I think that one of the things that you do gain is that you're able to get a kind of voyeuristic pulse. If you are aggregating the amount of posts, you can see what people are talking about if you organize it accordingly.
Yeah.
So if you have, say, 5 individuals that you're following, because you're going to enter into some sort of business relationship or even spiritual relationship with these individuals. Say you have 5 people in your life group, and you aggregate their posts in an instant. You can see what they're talking about, what they continue to talk about, and that allows you to kind of dig deeper. What you lose is that because you see what they're talking about, you don't actually ever address it. You don't ever talk to them about it. People assume that they know. Didn't you see my Facebook post? Didn't you see my Twitter post? Don't you know? And so there could be an assumption that because you put something out in the web sphere or the interwebs, that everyone knows. And I've seen some people sometimes rely on that as they've relied on email instead of a phone call. When the email, it's like, you didn't get my email? No, you should have called me. And so now it's like, you didn't see my Facebook post?
Yeah.
You didn't see my Twitter update? And it's so I think we lose some of that. Those we start leaving some of the communication pathways that worked before.
That's a great thought. That's a great insight. Thank you. And what is the question you would like to leave to one of our future guests?
I think that the question that I would like to ask is, how do you manage your time with these different with the different social media? How do you manage your time when you're engaging in social media, when you're integrating into your church? How do you manage your time? Is it something really systematic, or is it full immersion and then you scale her back, or do you just kind of scale slowly?
Yeah. Well, how do you do it? How do you do it? Or is it you're not sure and that's why you're asking?
Yeah. So it's both.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the way that I'm doing it is a good way, but it's the way that I'm doing it. So I'll show you the way that I'm doing it. Is that I do full immersion for a short period of time.
Okay.
So I almost ignore everything and I dive right into it, and I could spend an entire weekend learning something and just fully immerse in it, and then I start tapering. Yeah. That's my way. That's the way that I've done it in the past, and that's the way that I continue to do it.
Sure.
If there's something new, I'll fully immerse myself and taper.
Well, we'll get you some answers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, my friend. Great chatting with you as always, and good to see you on video. And we'll see you in a couple weeks in person as well.
Yes, we will. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, thanks for the time, DJ.